We are living in a world that is filled with rules and regulations, no matter if it's a sport or driving on the road. There are rules and regulations to follow. Regulation is a principle, guide, policy that are set by the regulators. It is used to control, manage, and stabilize both the economy and the public. The government enacts legislation to regulate both corporations and individuals. Company has constitution to regulate their employees. Regulations are very crucial in delivering fairness, efficiency, and effectiveness to the public. Regulations prevent corporations and individuals to behave in a way that is illegally and unethically. It also eliminates individuals with self-interest to minimize their own power and wealth, as well as corruption in the company, which will minimize the harm to shareholders, individuals, and public interests. Regulations enhance the transparency of the company and setting a standard for individuals to behave ethically and legally. Regulations such as common law, corporation law sets a principle and guide for both individuals and corporations where they need to ensure that they do not breach the regulations and act in good faith, which they can result with fines and penalties. Transparency allows the company to disclose information and to be more open to the public, where every move and news about the company is updated to the public for the purpose of protecting investors. Implementing and increasing more regulations will make the economy to be more controllable and stable. Also, protection for the public. Regulations can create separation of power where the managers have equal power in between them and give authority to a specific employee. Company can monitor their managers through regulation to see if they're acting in ethical behavior and in good faith. Also, regulators can monitor company for any corporate misconduct and unethical behavior, such as Lehman Brothers and Enron is a great example of why we need regulations. The Lehman Brothers temporarily removed the securities from their company's balance sheets to make their finance to look good for the public, and Enron hide all their losses from failed project and deals by using accounting loopholes. We cannot imagine how chaos the world would become if there's no regulations. It could end up with more companies to act like Lehman Brothers and Enron. Recent years, regulations have created a stronger and stable economy, which helped the growth of economy and to protect the public. Regulations may not be a panacea, but with the continuously involved of regulations, it helps us to avoid and minimize the risk of another crash such as the Lehman Brothers that resulted in a financial crisis 10 years ago. What I believe regulations is not a limitation. It is a fence to keep everyone within the boundary, so to ensure that they don't breach it. Everyone has their own standard and self-belief. We don't have the ability to control others' self-interest and to avoid conflict of interest. This is why we need regulation to keep us disciplined and ethical, also to get treated fairly and equally, as well as avoiding double standard to incur.
Hi. As we all know, regulation is a set of rules created by the government body, anybody, to make sure things go a certain way. However, too much of regulation can also lead to certain circumstances where it won't benefit the people. Like for instance, too much of environmental regulation and companies won't be allowed to build factories to expand their business and also to manufacture more products. In return, this would stop production and supply of that product and will increase the demand. Later on, the companies would collapse, and so will the economy. Labor laws also are in favor. If labor laws are too harsh, companies won't hire new staff, and they will go out of business by not coping with stress. And this in turn will collapse the economy, while the unemployment rate of that economy will little rise. Laws are time consuming. For example, Sarbanes and Oxley Act. Businesses claim that the law is time consuming to comply with. So many companies in the United States list their IPOs in the London Stock Exchange, and so that they won't need to worry about complying with the law. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, have been withholding information of certain drugs and not giving the approval to be marketed, to be advertised to the public. These kind of drugs could cure the common cold, the flu, fever, but if the FDA doesn't approve of it, they're just withholding good information or good products to the public, and that reduces the transparency between the government and the public. Media regulation also is bad for democracy. If the government regulates media and regulates what needs to be said from the newspapers, that would again reduce transparency between the people and the governing body. If the newspapers go with the regulation, the standard of journalism would drop, and that would reduce the value of the source of information. For example, CNN and MTV were big news hits back then, but when the United States government took over and regulated what needs to be showed and aired, it just became from a big hit to a big flop. Monopolies also cause regulation, and too much of it. Like if a monopoly is in that market, they would stop other companies from entering the market, and as well as they won't give much choice for the consumer to choose from. They could jack the price so high, and the consumers have to comply with it because they have no other option. So they turn the product from a want to a need. Supply and demand causes competition, and which benefits the consumers, because if there is competition, then the price will always stay at a minimum level, which is good. And also the consumers have choices to choose from. It doesn't need to be 2 companies, but 3, 4 is also ideal. But if there's a monopoly, it stops everything from happening, and it gives the consumers no choice whatsoever. Taxes is a better way. I reckon that taxes should be done instead of banning certain products, and it can give the government money from collecting money from taxing certain products. For example, in Colorado, if you tax, they have a tax on cannabis, which I really think is good, because that would raise funds for the government to use it as research and development, or to use it on other governing departments. However, prohibition can encourage the underground community to step up and give them more economic power, which isn't the best. Whereas if you are going to regulate, you need to keep a certain set of power to that self, but too much of it, you can give it to the hands of someone bad. There are extra costs to the firm if they have to comply with regulation, and it also may prevent price mechanism. A government failure may occur from too much regulation. For example, Soviet Russia, they regulate everything from water to electricity to milk to bread to almost everything. And even though in paper it's a good thing to have, but in reality the people won't be really happy, and that in favor would it'll just be a dictatorship rather than a democratic country. To conclude, I would say there shouldn't be no regulation, but there shouldn't be over-regulation as well. There's a fine line where people need to see and stay on it. There should be a balance between between regulation, and that's what. If that's done right, then everything would be done right as well. Thank you.